The great hall of the Zilirian Empire was silent, filled with thousands of alien nobles standing in perfect rows. Their silver armor shone like stars, their long tails curled behind them, and their eyes glowed softly in the dim blue light. Every creature in the hall waited for the king to speak. In the middle of that silence stood a single human soldier, Ethan Ward. He looked out of place. Humans were short compared to the tall, serpent-like aliens. His clothing was plain. He had no glowing armor, no royal symbol, no strange abilities. Yet he stood calmly, hands behind his back, facing the king who ruled 3 star systems. Ethan had been invited, no, summoned, to witness the final signing of peace between humans and the Zilirian Empire. But nobody expected what the king was about to do. High above, on a raised platform of glowing crystal, the king lifted a golden staff and spoke loudly. "Today," he announced, "the war ends, and to show our trust, we offer the human a royal gift." A whisper moved through the hall like a cold wind. A gift? To a human? Everyone stared at Ethan. Some were confused. Some were angry. A few even looked insulted. Ethan didn't react. He simply waited. The king raised one hand, and the heavy doors at the side of the hall slowly opened. Soft footsteps echoed on the crystal floor. A figure stepped inside. A woman, her delicate robes trailing behind her like flowing water. She had long white gold hair braided with glowing threads, eyes like bright amethyst crystals, and pale skin marked with faint royal patterns. Princess Isilia. The entire hall froze. King spoke again. "She will go with the human. She will live under his protection. This is my royal decision." A wave of shock ran through the air. Nobles gasped, soldiers stiffened. Some looked horrified, giving away a princess, a member of the royal bloodline. As a gift was unthinkable, but Ethan? He still didn't show fear, anger, or confusion. He just watched her quietly. Isilia walked toward him with slow, careful steps. Her eyes stayed low, like she had already accepted her fate long ago. Up close she looked fragile, almost breakable, as if one harsh word could shatter her. When she reached Ethan, she bowed her head. "I am yours now," she whispered softly. The hall echoed with murmurs. "Why her?" "She is the infertile one. She cannot continue the royal line." The king insulted the humans. Ethan heard the whispers, but he didn't flinch. The king stepped down from his throne and approached them. His voice lowered, heavy with unspoken meaning. "She is yours. Do with her what you wish. Our treaty stands." Ethan finally spoke, his voice steady. "I don't mistreat those under my care." The alien nobles stiffened. Some seemed offended that a human dared speak with such confidence. But the king only narrowed his eyes, studying Ethan as if trying to understand him. "Princess." Isilia stood still, hands together, her eyes fixed on the floor. She seemed ready for punishment, ready for humiliation, ready for anything except kindness. After the ceremony, guards escorted Ethan and Isilia toward the exit. As they walked through the long crystal corridor, the princess finally broke her. "Silence, you. Do not have to pretend," she said quietly. Ethan glanced at her. "Pretend what? That you accept this," she whispered. "They gave me to you because I have no worth. Because I am empty." "Empty?" He slowed his steps. "What do you mean?" She didn't look at him. "I cannot produce an heir. The royal priests tested me many times. They said I would never continue the bloodline. To them, I am a failure. To my father, I am an embarrassment." Her voice trembled, but she forced herself to keep walking. "That is why he gave me away," she continued softly. "To show peace, and to rid himself of a useless daughter." Ethan didn't stop her. He listened. Isilia was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that caught him off guard. "I do not expect kindness from you," she said. "Humans, alien nobles, All are the same. You all want something in return. I will not break, whatever you choose to do. Ethan finally spoke, his tone gentle. I don't want anything from you. Isilia looked at him then, really looked. Her bright amethyst eyes widened slightly, as if she didn't understand the words. You don't? She whispered. No, Ethan said. You're a person, not an object. Her steps halted. For the first time, her expression cracked. A small tear fell from the corner of her eye. She quickly wiped it, embarrassed. Humans are strange, she whispered. And princesses shouldn't be treated like property, Ethan replied. Isilia lowered her head again, but this time not from shame, but from confusion. Maybe even hope. As they reached the landing pad where a human ship waited. Ethan opened the door and stepped aside. You first, he said politely. Isilia blinked, clearly not used to being treated with respect. She walked inside slowly. Ethan followed, the ship doors closing behind them. As the engines hummed to life, the princess sat quietly, hands folded, trying to make sense of this unexpected kindness. She had been given away like a discarded object, but the human didn't treat her like one. And for the first time in her life, Isilia felt uncertain about what her future would be, not because she feared Ethan, but because hope, a feeling she had forgotten long ago, was slowly returning. The human ship flew through silent space, its engines glowing gently in the darkness. Inside the cabin, Princess Isilia sat quietly, her hands resting on her knees, her eyes fixed on the window. Stars passed by like falling snow, but she didn't seem to see them. Her mind was somewhere else. Somewhere deep. Somewhere painful. Ethan sat a few seats away, giving her space. He didn't speak, didn't stare, didn't judge. He simply waited, the same calm expression on his face as when he stood before the king. For a long time they traveled. In silence, Isilia finally broke it. You confuse me, she said softly. Ethan looked up. How? You don't order me to cook. You don't force me to kneel. You don't shout. You don't even touch me. Her voice shook a little. My own people treated me worse than this. Ethan spoke calmly. Because I am not your people. She turned to him, her amethyst eyes glowing faintly in the dim cabin light. Then who are you? Someone who thinks everyone deserves respect, he replied. That answer only made her more confused. Respect was something she had never truly known. She looked away again. Humans are unpredictable. Aliens say the same about us. Ethan said with a small smile. For a moment, she almost smiled too. But she stopped herself. She was not used to smiling, not anymore. A life shaped by cruel words. Hours later, the ship landed on Ethan's small outpost, a quiet place on a peaceful green moon. The air smelled like fresh soil and clean wind, very different from the cold halls of the Zalirian palace. Isilia stepped outside cautiously. She looked around with wonder, but also fear. Nature was not something she saw often. Royal children were kept inside crystal towers, away from weak environments. Ethan carried her small bag, the only thing she owned. You can stay in this room, he said, opening the door to a neat little cabin. Nobody will disturb you. Isilia stepped inside. The room was simple, a bed, a table, a window showing the forest outside. But something important was present. Quiet, peace, freedom, things she had never known. You may rest, Ethan said. Softly, placing the bag on the table, she looked at him carefully. You don't want anything? Only your comfort, he answered. Her chest tightened. Nobody had ever said that to her. She sat on the bed slowly. Ethan turned to leave, but Isilia's voice stopped him. Why did my father do this? She asked suddenly. Ethan paused. You should tell me. Isilia lowered her eyes. My father thinks I am broken. Ethan didn't move. They say I cannot produce a royal heir, she continued. In my empire, that makes me useless. her voice cracked. A princess who cannot continue the bloodline has no value. She didn't cry. She had cried enough times already. But her voice held years of pain. My father hid me away. Number. Royal suitor wanted me, the council whispered behind my back. They treated me like an empty shell. A failed creation. Ethan stepped closer. Isilia. Being unable to have a child doesn't make someone worthless. Her lips trembled. But I am the daughter of a king. My only purpose was to continue the line. When they said I couldn't, she swallowed hard. I stopped being a person. Ethan's voice was firm but gentle. You are a person. Your value doesn't come from what you can give. It comes from who you are. Isilia's eyes widened. She stared at him as if she had never heard such a thing before. Who? I am? Yes. Ethan said. Not what the Empire wants you to be. Her hands slowly curled around the bedsheet. She felt something warm inside her chest. Something strange. Something almost painful. Hope. It frightened her. A human with no judgment. That evening, Ethan cooked a simple meal. The warm smell drifted through the small house. Isilia sat quietly, watching him with curiosity. In the palace, she never ate with others. Royal daughters ate alone, in silence, because they must keep a pure and perfect image. But Ethan placed a plate in front of her. Eat. She stared at it like it was some kind of luxury. Is this for me? Yes, for you. She tasted the food slowly, and her eyes softened. This is warm. Food usually is. Ethan joked. She actually laughed, a tiny sound soft like a bell. Ethan didn't react too strongly. He didn't want to scare her. But inside, he felt glad she could still laugh. You know, she said after a moment, nobody has ever made a meal for me. Not even the palace? They delivered food, she said. But never with kindness. Ethan nodded. You'll get used to kindness here. She lowered her gaze again, uncertain. I don't know if I can. You will, Ethan said. You deserve it. Isilia held her breath. Nobody had ever said that either. The night of quiet peace later, when Ethan stepped out to check the perimeter, Isilia walked slowly to the window. She looked at the forest. Outside, small lights, glowing between the trees like fireflies. She pressed her hand gently on the glass. What kind of world is this? She whispered. Where a human treats me better than my own father. She didn't know the answer, but she knew one thing. For the first time in her life, she wanted to stay. 3 peaceful weeks passed on the small green moon. Ethan continued his daily work at the outpost, checking scanners, repairing equipment, and keeping the perimeter safe. Isilia stayed mostly indoors, learning the human language more fluently, exploring the quiet cabin, and discovering what normal life truly felt like. She slept without fear. She ate warm food. She walked in the forest without guards watching. For the first time, she lived as a person. Not as a symbol. But slowly, very slowly, something began to change. Something strange. Something impossible. A light under her skin. It started one morning when Isilia woke up feeling unusually warm. Not feverish, just warm. A soft glow pulsed under the skin of her wrists, faint like a heartbeat made of light. She hid it under her sleeves. She told herself it was normal. Her people had strange biology. Maybe it was just stress leaving her body. But she could not ignore one more thing. Her senses were sharper. She could smell flowers from far away. She could hear Ethan even when he walked quietly outside the cabin. And her heartbeat had changed. It beat faster but softer, as if something inside her was growing. She didn't understand it. Or maybe she didn't want to. Ethan notices something that afternoon. Ethan returned from patrol and found Isilia sitting by the window, staring at her hands. You okay? He asked gently. Isilia quickly hid her wrists. Yes, I'm fine. Ethan studied her face. Her cheeks were flushed. her eyes glowing a little brighter than usual. "You look warm," he said. "Do you feel sick?" "No, just tired," she whispered. But Ethan was a soldier who noticed details. Something wasn't right. Her breathing was shallow, her posture tense, her voice weaker than usual. "Sit," he said softly. She obeyed, though she seemed nervous. Ethan placed a small scanner in front of her. "Let me check." Isilia froze. Her heart thumped loudly in her ears. "No," she breathed. "No scans." "It's just for health," Ethan said. "Nothing else." Isilia looked away. She hated scanners. In the palace, they scanned her. Again and again, each time giving the same verdict. Empty. Broken. Useless. "I don't want to know," she whispered. "I'm afraid." Ethan took a slow breath. He didn't push her. Instead, he placed the scanner gently on the table, leaving it untouched. "Then you decide," he said. "I won't force you." She stared at him with surprise. He trusted her to choose. Nobody ever trusted her before. After a long moment, she picked up the scanner with trembling hands. "Fine," she whispered. "But sit close." Ethan nodded and sat beside her. The scanner hummed as she placed it against her wrist. For 10 seconds, there was silence. Then a soft chime, a line of text appeared on the screen. Isilia stared at it. Ethan leaned forward, confused about the message. Was simple, clear, impossible. Unborn life detected. Isilia's breath caught in her throat. "No," she whispered. "No, it can't." Ethan blinked, stunned. "Isilia, this means it's wrong," she cried, her voice shaking. "The scanners. They always said I had nothing. That I was. She could not even say the word. Ethan gently took the scanner from her trembling hands and ran it again. The result didn't change. Life detected. Hybrid development active. A tiny, glowing spark appeared on the screen, a cluster of cells forming together, delicate but strong. Ethan looked at her with calm shock. "Isilia, you're pregnant." She covered her mouth, tears forming instantly. "It's not possible," she whispered. "Humans and my kind, we were never tested. It shouldn't work. And I was told I had no ability, no future, no hope." Her voice broke. Ethan placed his hand gently on her shoulder. "Sometimes people are wrong." Isilia shook her head violently. "My father will kill me. The council will take the child. They will think it's a threat, a mistake, an abomination." But Ethan didn't panic. His voice stayed steady. "You're safe here," he said. "Nobody knows. Nobody will touch you." But he was wrong. Someone already knew. Someone is watching that night. While Ethan checked the security system, a faint light moved between the trees. A small alien recon drone hovered silently, scanning the cabin. Inside, Isilia sat on the floor, holding the scanner tightly against her chest, as if protecting a secret more precious than her own life. The drone zoomed in, observed her glowing pulse, captured every detail, and sent the data far, far away, across the stars, to the Empire, to the royal palace, to the king himself. The message that changed everything sat in his private chamber, reading a glowing report. He read it once, then again. Then again, his hands began to tremble. "Impossible," he whispered. A furious rumble shook through his chest. His eyes glowed with rage, confusion, fear, emotions he hadn't felt in decades. His infertile daughter, his useless princess, carrying a child, and not just any child, a hybrid, half royal, half human. A child that should not exist. A child who could become an heir. The king slammed his fist on the table, the crystal surface cracking under the force. "Summon the council," he roared. Now, the galaxy shifted that night. A human soldier, a discarded princess, and a child who defied biology and prophecy. The Empire whispered one question: what will the king do now? The Zalirian capital was never quiet, but that night was different. A strange tension hung in the crystal air. Guards moved faster. Servants whispered behind columns. High-ranking nobles sensed something had shifted, though none knew what. Only one man understood. The king. He sat at the head of the royal council. Chamber, the glowing report from the recon drone replaying again and again in front of him. Princess Isilia, his discarded daughter, glowed softly on the screen. Her hands pressed protectively over her stomach. Hybrid life form shimmered inside her. A child dot in air. A miracle dot, or a threat. The king's jaw clenched so hard that cracks formed in the armrest of his throne. "This should not exist," he growled. "It is impossible." Around him, the council circled in floating seats, each one a powerful figure in the empire. Their eyes glowed with fear, shock, and greed. "It is possible," said High Scientist Varan nervously. "If her infertility was misdiagnosed, if her biology changed after leaving the palace, if the human silence," the king snapped. Chamber instantly froze. No one dared speak when the king used that tone. The council reacts at last. Counselor Threx cleared his throat. "Your Majesty, this changes everything." The king's gaze turned sharp. "You mean it threatens everything?" "No," Threx said carefully. "It gives us something the Empire has not had in hundreds of cycles, a true heir. The royal bloodline is nearly extinct, and yet, the child Isilia carries may be the strongest in history. Because it is half human?" The king mocked. "Because," Threx said softly, "it has hybrid traits, rare, powerful, possibly unmatched." A ripple of nervous whispers moved through the council. Some worried. Some were excited. Some already imagined controlling the child. The king slammed his staff on the floor, sending a wave of energy across the chamber. "No heir of mine will have human blood." He roared. "But the law, but the prophecy, but the people," voices erupted. The king bared his fangs. Silence. They obeyed instantly. Only High Priestess Saralee dared speak again, her long robes brushing the floor as she bowed. "Your Majesty, the ancient texts say, the child of mixed essence will bring balance between worlds." "Perhaps. Enough of your legends," the king snapped. "This abomination insults the throne." The priestess lowered her head, but her eyes held quiet rebellion. "This child could unite two species," she whispered. The king's voice dropped dangerously. "It will destroy the empire before I allow that." The king's true fear. He stood and paced slowly, his long tail scraping against the crystal floor. "Isilia was a political weakness," he muttered. "A reminder of failure. I gave her away to remove a stain from my bloodline." He turned sharply toward the council. "And now she carries something that could challenge every rule I built." His claws tightened. "This human. Ethan Ward. He must be destroyed." A few counselors nodded eagerly, but Priestess Saralee spoke again, softly yet firmly. "Your Majesty, the people will sense the truth eventually. The energy signature of the unborn child is strong. It will not remain hidden." "Then we must move swiftly," the king said. "We retrieve the princess. We take the child. And we erase the human." Isilia's name left his mouth like a curse, not like the name of his own daughter. Across the moon. Isilia doesn't know on the quiet human outpost. Isilia had no idea her father's fury was spreading through the empire like wildfire. She spent the evening sitting near a small lamp, one hand on her stomach, her heart full of fear. And something else she never felt before. Hope. Ethan walked in, noticing her worried expression. "You're too quiet," he said gently. Isilia looked up. "Ethan, what if someone finds out?" He sat across from her. "Nobody knows." She held the scanner tightly. "But if they did, what would happen?" Ethan looked at her for a long moment. "I'd protect you." Her eyes softened. "From my own people?" "From anyone," Ethan said. She exhaled shakily and whispered, "Why do you care so much?" Ethan didn't answer right away. He simply placed a hand over hers, carefully, respectfully. "Because you deserve to be safe," he said. Islia lowered her head, trying to hide the tears in her eyes. Back in the Empire, a dangerous order, the king finally made his decision. "Prepare a retrieval squad," he commanded coldly. "Send our best trackers. The child must be taken before it develops further." Counselor Threx's eyes widened. "Your Majesty, the child could be unstable if removed too early. Princess Isilia might." "I do not care," the king hissed. "Bring me the heir. The mother is optional." The council stiffened. Everyone heard the hidden meaning optional meant. If she survives, fine. If she doesn't, it changes nothing. The king saw the horror on their faces. Isilia was born weak. Let her remain weak, he spat. "But the child is mine." The secret leak as the meeting ended. Priestess Saralee walked slowly through the palace. Corridors. She moved like a shadow, her mind full of worry. She had seen the prophecy. She had seen the signs. She knew the truth. The hybrid child was not a threat. It was a beginning. She whispered a soft prayer and pressed her hand to a crystal communication stone hidden in her sleeve. "If the king will not show mercy," she whispered, "then someone else must." A faint glow answered her. A secret message was sent. A warning meant for one person. The human. The message arrives late that night. Ethan's console beeped. He frowned. "I'm not expecting a transmission." Isilia watched nervously. Ethan opened. A single line appeared, encrypted. "Anonymous. The royal fleet knows. They are coming." Ethan felt the blood drain from his face. Isilia's hands began to shake. "What does it mean?" she asked, voice trembling. Ethan looked at her with calm urgency. "It means," he said softly, "we don't have much time." The warning message still glowed on Ethan's console. "The royal fleet knows. They are coming." Those 6 words changed the quiet moon into a battlefield of fear. Isilia stood frozen, her breath trembling, her hand pressed over her stomach. The cabin's warm light suddenly felt too bright, too unsafe. "Ethan," she whispered, "my father, he will take the child. He will kill you. He will." Her voice broke. Ethan placed both hands on her shoulders and forced her to look at him. "Listen to me. We are not helpless." But she shook her head violently. "You don't understand. The king's elite squad, they do not fail. They do not negotiate. If he sends them." She closed her eyes. "Ethan, nobody survives." He gently lifted her chin. "I've survived worse." Isilia looked into his eyes, steady, brave, unshaken. For the first time in her life, she saw someone willing to stand between her and the entire empire. The sky turns gold. Minutes passed in tense silence. Then the ground vibrated. A deep, rumbling hum rolled across the forest. Animals fled into the bushes. Trees shook. The night sky brightened with a golden glow. Isilia whispered, her voice barely audible, "They're here." Ethan grabbed his rifle and stepped to the door. "Stay behind me. Don't move unless I say." Outside, the sky was filling with massive ships, sleek, curved vessels with glowing runes carved into their hulls. They descended silently, like predators circling prey. One by one, the ships formed a ring above the outpost. A golden spotlight broke through the clouds, shining directly on Ethan's cabin. Isilia gasped. "That is the king's signal beam. It means he is personally watching." The door shakes. A sudden blast shook the cabin. Dust fell from the ceiling. Isilia screamed, covering her ears. Ethan steadied her. "It's okay. It's just their landing." But it wasn't just. Outside, heavy metal steps echoed through the forest. The king's elite guards, towering armored soldiers, with glowing blue visors, marched toward the cabin in perfect formation. Their weapons hummed with deadly energy. A sharp voice boomed through a loudspeaker. Isilia, of the royal blood, surrender. Immediately, Celia flinched. They will destroy everything if I don't go. Ethan, let me. He grabbed her wrist firmly. No, you don't decide anything in fear. She looked at him desperately. If they take me, you will die. And if I let them take you, Ethan said quietly, I won't be able to live with myself. Her eyes filled with tears. Ethan makes his stand. Ethan stepped outside slowly, hands raised but posture unshaken. The elite squad aimed their weapons instantly. Their commander, a tall alien with silver armor, spoke coldly. Human Ethan Ward, you are ordered to step aside. The princess belongs to the Empire. Ethan's voice didn't tremble. She's not property. A murmur rippled through the squad. No one ever spoke to them like that. The commander's visor flashed. You have no authority over royal matters. She is carrying a child, Ethan said. Your child. Your future heir. And she is terrified of you. Silence fell. Then the commander replied with icy precision. We are aware. He raised a crystal tablet. The hologram displayed the glowing embryo alive, strong, impossible. The king wants the heir. The mother is not required. Ethan stepped forward slowly. You touch her, and you'll have to get through me. This time, the whole squad shifted uneasily. No human had ever challenged the royal elite. Isilia's fear explodes inside the cabin. Isilia could hear everything, every word. Felt like a blade against her skin. They don't want me, she whispered. Just the child. Her legs gave out and she sank to the floor. She remembered the palace, the examinations, the cold rooms, the whispers, empty, broken, useless. And now suddenly she was valuable again, but not as a person. As a vessel. A container. A tool. Fresh tears streamed down her cheeks. No, she whispered. Not again. Never again. She stood. And for the first time in her life, she walked toward danger instead of away from it. A princess steps forward. Ethan had his rifle raised when the cabin door opened behind him. Isilia, stay inside. He shouted, but she stepped out. Shoulders trembling, eyes glowing with fear and courage. The elite squad straightened at the sight of her. Some bowed their heads. Their training forced respect, even if their orders were cruel. The commander lifted his hand. Princess Isilia, by order of the king, you are to surrender the unborn heir. Isilia held her stomach protectively. I refuse. The commander froze. Refusal is not permitted. Ethan moved to stand beside her. You heard her. The commander's visor dimmed, a sign of deep annoyance. The king anticipated defiance, he said. He has arrived personally. Ethan and Isilia exchanged a stunned look. The king himself was here? The forest suddenly lit up with a massive blast of golden energy. A giant ship, larger than all the others, descended from the sky like a falling sun. Its insignia, the royal crest. The king lands as the colossal ship touched the ground. Forest bowed under the pressure. A ramp extended. Gold-armored guards lined the path. And then, the king stepped out. Tall, regal, terrifying. His eyes glowed like twin stars. His presence made even the elites tremble. He walked toward them slowly, each step echoing like thunder. Isilia's breathing grew shallow. Ethan moved instinctively in front of her. The king stopped inches away from him. He didn't look at his daughter. Not even once. His voice was cold enough to freeze the air. Human, you have something that belongs to me. Ethan didn't move. She doesn't belong to anyone. The king's eyes narrowed dangerously. You misunderstand, he said slowly. It is not the woman I speak of. He pointed at Isilia's stomach. It is the heir. Isilia grabbed Ethan's arm, shaking. Ethan stepped forward. Then you'll have to take her life to get to that child. The king smiled a slow, cruel smile. That, he whispered, was the plan. The forest went silent. The air broke. With the sound of charging weapons, the king raised his hand, and everything exploded into chaos. The forest exploded with motion. The elite guards raised their weapons, but the king lifted one clawed hand and everything froze. Trees swayed. Dust hung in the air. Even the birds stopped calling. With a single gesture, the king commanded absolute silence. Ethan stood in front of Isilia, rifle ready, breath heavy. Isilia clutched his arm with both hands, heart hammering. The king stepped closer, his glowing eyes fixed on Ethan. "You stand between a father and his legacy," the king said softly. "Move aside." Ethan didn't. "You're not here for a legacy," he answered. "You're here for power." A low growl rumbled from the king's chest. His elites tightened their formation. Then the king spoke again. "Bring the extraction unit." Isilia's blood turned to ice. "No," she whispered. "Not that." The crystal chamber. A group of scientists emerged from a smaller ship, carrying a floating crystal pod. Cold, glowing, heartless. The commander addressed the king. "Your Majesty, the extraction chamber is ready." Ethan aimed his rifle at them. "You are not touching her." Two elites moved to disarm him, but the king raised a hand. "No," he said. "Let the human try. Let him cost himself everything." Then he turned to his daughter. "Isilia, step forward." She didn't move. I said, "Step forward." Her knees shook, but she remained behind Ethan. "I won't." The king's voice darkened. "Defiance again? Even now?" Isilia wrapped a trembling arm around Ethan. "He protects me more than you ever did." Gasps rippled through the elites. The king's expression cracked for the first time. Anger, shame, something unspoken. Then he snarled, "Take her." The elites advanced. Ethan fired a warning shot into the air. The blast echoed through the forest. "Back away!" he shouted. For a moment, just a moment, the elites hesitated. The priestess arrived suddenly. A soft blue light opened in the air. A figure stepped through. High Priestess Sarali. The elites bowed instantly. The king's eyes narrowed in annoyance. "Why are you here?" he demanded. "I bring order," she replied calmly, "and the ancient law." She turned toward Isilia and Ethan, her expression kind. "The king cannot take the child without proof." Ethan blinked. "Proof of what?" Sarali lifted a glowing orb. "Proof that the unborn life carries the royal bloodline." The king scoffed. "I do not need proof. It is obvious." "Obvious is not enough," Sarali said. "The old laws protect the unborn, even from their own father." Isilia gasped softly. She knew the priestess was risking her life. The king's claws tightened. "You dare challenge me?" Sarali lifted her chin. "I challenge only your blindness." The king growled, but stepped aside reluctantly. "Fine, test the child. Then give it to me." The bloodline scancerally approached Isilia with the orb. "Child, I need you to stand still." Isilia took a shaky breath. Ethan held her hand. The orb floated around her stomach, glowing brighter with each pass. Strange symbols appeared in the air: ancestral marks, energy signatures, genetic traces. The elites watched in stunned silence. The forest quieted. Even the king leaned forward. Then the orb flashed. A deep, resonant hum vibrated through the entire outpost. Sarali's eyes widened. Her hands trembled. "What is it?" Isilia whispered. Sarali slowly turned toward the king and the council. "This child does not only carry royal blood." She looked down in disbelief. "It carries enhanced royal lineage." The council gasped. The king blinked. "Enhanced?" Sarali nodded. "Stronger than any heir in recorded history. His life force is fused." She glanced at Ethan, "with human resilience." The king's face fell. Ethan frowned. "Meaning?" Sarali spoke softly. "Meaning this child could survive environments even adults cannot." meaning its power is beyond what either species has seen. The elites murmured nervously. Some looked afraid. Some looked greedy. The king's eyes glowed brighter. So the heir is powerful, he said slowly. Good, then he must be raised. In the palace, Saralie shook her head. No, that's not all. She lifted the orb again. New symbols flashed across it. Saralie stepped back, shocked. Your Majesty, the child's energy reading is rejecting the palace imprint. The king's expression sharpened. Rejecting? He repeated. Saralie whispered. The child's instinct chooses its protector, and the protector is not you. She turned toward Ethan. It's him. The entire council gasped. Leah covered her mouth, tears streaming. Ethan blinked. Me? Saralie nodded. His presence stabilizes the child. Without him, its life force flickers. It does not trust the Empire. It trusts you. Isilia sobbed softly. Ethan, it chose you. The king's face twisted with rage. Nitrogen monoxide human will be father to my heir. He lunged forward. Elites rushed. Ethan shielded Isilia. The priestess stepped between them, robes glowing like fire. Your Majesty, you cannot harm the protector. If you do, the child may die. The king froze mid-step. His rage trembled visibly. Saralie continued. The ancient law is clear. The protector of the unborn heir is protected by the throne, even if that protector is an outsider. Ethan stared. So I'm legally immune? Saralie nodded. For now. The king's voice dropped to a deadly whisper. You think a law will stop me? Saralie replied calmly. Not the law. The child. Silence. A dangerous decision. The king stepped back, trembling with fury. Fine, he pointed at Ethan. But understand this, human. His voice lowered, sharp as a blade. You have become the single obstacle between me and the future of my empire. I will obey the law today because the child demands it. He leaned closer, eyes burning. But laws can be changed. Ethan stood firm. Isilia tightened her grip on his arm, and the king gave his final warning. Protect the heir while you can. I am coming back for what is mine. He turned, cape whipping through the air. Elites marching behind him. But his last words echoed through the forest. This is not over. The king's fleet rose into the sky, leaving a storm behind. A storm that would return. Stronger, faster, and furious. The king's fleet disappeared into the clouds, but the impact of his visit stayed behind like a storm that refused to leave. The forest was silent. The cabin's lights flickered. Isilia stood trembling, her hand over her stomach, staring at the sky where her father vanished. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. He's gone, but Isilia shook her head. No, this was only the beginning. Her voice was hollow, exhausted. The child's energy pulsed faintly under her skin, reacting to her fear. Ethan noticed. You need to rest. I can't rest, she whispered. Not while he's planning to take the child and kill you. Ethan looked at her with steady eyes. Then we don't let him. A growing power over the next few hours, strange. Things began happening around HFY. Lights flickered when she walked. The air vibrated when she breathed. The plants near the cabin glowed softly as she passed. Ethan watched with concern. The child's energy is increasing. Isilia nodded weakly. It grows faster because of the stress, the bond, the danger. And because it trusts you, Ethan added. She met his gaze. Because it trusts us. For the first time. She wasn't alone. The return of the priestess, a soft shimmer of blue light, appeared near the cabin. High Priestess Saralie stepped through, her face serious. Isilia gasped. You came back? But my father will. Your father must not decide. Your fate, Saralie said gently, nor the fate of this child. She turned to Ethan. Human, do you understand what this pregnancy means? Ethan nodded slowly. that the child could change everything. Sara Lee raised the glowing orb again. This child is not just an heir. Its energy signature is unlike anything in our records. It adapts, evolves, and responds to emotional bonds. You are its anchor. Without you, it becomes unstable. Unstable? Ethan repeated. Meaning? Sara Lee sighed. Meaning the child could die, or unleash uncontrolled power. Isilia covered her stomach protectively. No, I won't let that happen. Sara Lee placed a hand on hers gently, which is why I must tell you something dangerous. The forbidden truth, Sara Lee lowered her voice. The child's energy has chosen a destiny, one even the king cannot change. Ethan frowned. What destiny? Sara Lee looked at both of them with fear and awe. A future where two species unite. A future of peace forged through your family. The child's existence threatens every faction that profits from war. Isilia trembled. So, they will never stop hunting us. No, Sara Lee whispered. They won't. Ethan sighed. Then we keep running. Sara Lee shook her head. You cannot run forever. The king controls the stars. The council controls the roots. They will corner you eventually. Ethan clenched his jaw. Then what's the solution? Sara Lee hesitated. There's only one way. A choice that changes everything. Sara Lee stepped back and projected a map of the galaxy. A hidden region glowed deep in the corner, a dead zone. No ship entered. The Nebula Sanctuary, she said. A place outside all star charts. Energy storms prevent scanners from entering. It is the only safe place for the child to grow. Ethan narrowed his eyes. So we hide there? No, Sara Lee said quietly. You live there. Isilia stepped forward. Leave the Empire? Leave everything? Yes, Sara Lee whispered. If you stay, the king will destroy anything and anyone to take the child. If you go, you vanish from his reach. Ethan looked at Isilia. This is your choice. Her eyes trembled. My choice? For once, he said softly, your life is yours. Those words broke something inside her. She had never been given a choice. Not about her future. Not about her worth. Not about her body. Not about her freedom. But Ethan was giving her all of it. She took a long breath. I choose. Her voice shook. To protect the child. To protect you. To protect our family. Ethan felt his chest tighten. You sure? She nodded with teary eyes. Yes, I want a life where I am not a prisoner. Sara Lee smiled softly. Then I will escort you to the sanctuary. But suddenly, a golden flash erupted in the sky. The king's voice boomed from distant speakers. Isilia, you cannot escape your blood. Isilia gasped. He changed his mind, he returned. Fear shot through her like lightning. Ethan grabbed her hand. Sara Lee, go. The priestess activated the portal. Blue light swirled violently. Hearing the king's steps thunder across the ground, Isilia clutched Ethan desperately. Please, don't let him take our child. Ethan squeezed her hand. I won't. The final confrontation, the king stepped out of the shadows like a storm given form. His eyes glowed with raw rage. You dare run from me? He roared. Isilia stepped behind Ethan, shaking. You treat me like an object, she whispered. I won't live like that anymore. The king snarled. You are royal blood. You belong to, I belong to no one. Her voice, though trembling, carried a strength he had never heard. The king turned his fury to Ethan. You stole my heir. Ethan met his gaze. No, you threw away your daughter. I only gave her what you never did. The king's rage snapped. He lunged, but Sara Lee unleashed a shockwave of blue energy. The king stumbled back, stunned. Go, Sara Lee shouted. Now. Ethan grabbed Isilia's hand and ran toward the portal. The king roared, Isilia, you leave this empire as a traitor. She stopped at the edge of the portal and looked back at him one last time. No. she whispered. "I leave as a mother." Then she stepped into the portal. Ethan followed. The king's scream shook the sky. A new dawn. The blue light swallowed them. The forest vanished. The empire vanished. The war, the fear. Her father's shadow. All gone, they emerged into a calm. Glowing nebula, vast, beautiful, peaceful, a new world. A new beginning. Ethan held Isilia close. She pressed her forehead against his chest, and inside her, the child pulsed with gentle light, a life born from two worlds. A future that would one day shake the galaxy again. But for now, they were safe, together.